Beadle. Here for her fourth visit, Charlotte Stewart.
The handsome young man that Mary Ingalls only had eyes for, John Sanderson Jr., played by Rodimus Para on his second visit to Walnut Grove.
She was the other sweet mother that kept the little house neat and tidy, Sarah Carter. Here for her first visit, Pamela Roylance.
The man who stole Laura's heart with those beautiful blue eyes, Almanzo Wilder. Dean Butler, here for about the fifth time.
Hold on.
She was the youngest of the Ingalls girls and oh so cute. Grace Ingalls, portrayed by Wendy Lou Lee, here for her second visit.
He was the handsome young man that lived in the little house after the Ingalls. Jeb Carter, played by Lindsey Kennedy on his first visit.
That's only for the pageant.
She was the third Ingalls daughter who was well known for falling down the hill and Carrie Ingalls, portrayed by Sidney Greenbush on her third visit.
He was the cute little boy that moved into the Ingalls with his family. Jason Carter, played by Dave Friedman on his first visit to Walnut Grove.
And finally, she was the meanest girl around. And the one everyone loved to hate.
Yeah.
Nellie Olson, portrayed by Allison Arngrim, here for her fifth time.
Oh boy. Welcome everyone to Walnut Grove. I'm going to let each of you take a little ditty. Over here, sorry. Talk a little ditty about yourself, what you've been doing, what you did then, and then we'll open it up for Q&A from the crowd. So, Pamela, would you like to start?
Thank you, I would thank you for having me and the Carter boys and the rest of us here. We've enjoyed the hospitality so much. So I played Sarah Carter on the show. Stan sends his regards. He really wanted to come and wasn't able to at the last minute, so he did send his love, and he's here in spirit. So it was a gift to me to be able to be on the show. I was teaching high school in Portland and always wanted to be on the Little House. So when it came true, it was a pretty big deal. So yeah, it was a wonderful year since then. I'm still acting whenever I can get things, but I have to say, nothing has matched this experience. So yeah, pretty hard to beat.
Oh, you know me. I'm everywhere. Well, so yes, indeed, I was 11 years old, and I'd been working since I was 6, and my father told me I might not work again. It was slowing down. I was kind of washed up at 11, and so Little House was the comeback role, actually. That was my first comeback. I got Little House, and that was it. People have been hating me ever since now, 45 years. And I've been doing all kinds of fun stuff over the last few years. As many of you know, I do stand-up comedy. I have a one-woman show. I wrote a book. Some people kind of liked it. And I do shows in France. And I do a lot of theater, and last year I did a show, Always Patsy Cline. I played her wacky fan friend. And I do all kinds of crazy stuff, and I did a horror web series recently, which is lots of fun as well. I killed 5 people and a rat. Very enjoyable. So yes, I'm kind of everywhere, and many of you are getting the Nellie newsletter. How many people get the Nellie newsletter? Yes, awesome. Okay, we'll get the rest of you signed up before the weekend's over. So, thank you. I'm glad to be here again, and I'm so excited that we have completely new people who've never even been here. It's great. Thank you.
So, I'm Sydney, and unfortunately, Lindsey couldn't be here.
Are you on?
Okay, that's better. So I'm Sydney, and unfortunately my sister Lindsey couldn't be here, but she wanted to send her greetings to everybody, and we both want to thank you all for coming out and attending. We started on the show the year of the pilot. We had just turned 3. We came off of another movie we did called Sunshine, and then we were on this show for 9 years until it was 12. These days I have worked for the last 6 years doing IT/paralegal work for a residential builder, and I just have a regular 9 to 5 and come out and visit you guys when I can. So thank you all for coming.
My name is Dean Butler, and I came into I can't tell you how lovely that is to get that reaction from all of you. It's really great, and thank you for that. I owe it all to my parents. And it's really, truly. I came into Little House in season 6, and as the man who would marry Laura. And I had no idea when I stepped into this as a young actor that this is what Almanzo meant to the series and people who loved it and loved the books. I just had no clue about what it was, but it presented itself really quickly, and it's been this amazing journey for me now, 40 years this year, and it's just been wonderful. In the years since Little House, I did another series called The New Gidget, where I played Jeff Moondoggy Griffin. So I went from manly to moondoggy, and then I played Buffy's dad on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Very sort of a brief thing. I spent a year on Broadway doing Into the Woods, a wonderful, wonderful Broadway show, playing Rapunzel's prince. And then in the last 20 years, I've been operating behind the camera, and currently I work for Golf Channel, which is part of the NBC Sports Group, and I produce a weekly series called Faraday on the Golf Channel. If anybody here watch Golf Channel? Sort of a minor thing. Anybody know Faraday? Oh yeah. Cool. Yeah. A lot of fun. So. Little House Little House will always be a part of my life, and everything that I've ever done in my life, including meeting the woman that I ended up marrying, came from the Little House experience. So, and some of you may know, many of you may know my wife. Her name is Catherine Cannon, and Catherine played Tori Spelling's mom on the original Beverly Hills 90210. And she played Merlin Olsen's love interest on the spin-off of Little House called Father Murphy. And I met Catherine when she was auditioning for Michael to play Mae Woodward on Father Murphy. And it only took us 15 years after that to get together. We eventually did, and it was always coming back to that experience that brought us, that we remember and brought us together. So anyway, it's a great thrill to be back in Walnut Grove again. This is one of the hearts of the Laura experience, and you're all fantastic, and thank you all for being here.
Oh my God, this microphone has been sitting in the sun for... I found myself getting a little choked up, you know, when we came out here and I looked at you. This is probably my, seventh event here. It means so much to us when you come up to us at the table and say, you know, that you watched it with your family, you know, you remember watching it with your grandma or your mom and all that, and that just, you know, we've just been blessed. I really feel that Little House on the Prairie was a miracle that happened to me. I didn't have a clue what I was getting into. I had never heard of Little House on the Prairie. I didn't know it was a series of books until I found a copy of one of the books at a swap meet, and I opened it up. I thought, finally I found the book. And I opened it up, and Mary goes blind and the dog died. Here I am. Well, I'm semi-retired right now. I live in Napa, California, the wine country. And what I do now, excuse me, it's bright sun. I spend my days sewing. And you may or may not have seen my what we call beetle bags. They are tote bags that I make with pictures from Little House on the Prairie. And I sell them online, and they're at the shop here, you know, in where the heck are we? I forget where I'm what I would like you to know about the reason I sew every day is because I'm a cancer survivor, and when I had my cancer in the biggest hospital in Los Angeles, there was no aftercare. And when I moved to Napa, where I live now, there was a place called the Wellness Center. And what they do is they take patients who have just been through surgery, radiation, chemo, and they give them 6 weeks of free treatment to get back on their feet. So I give a percentage of my beetle bags to the Wellness Center. So that's what you're doing. So thanks. Great to be here.
Hello? Hi, guys. It's the new guy. One of the new guys. So my name's Dave Friedman. I play Jason Carter, the younger of the two boys in the Carter family. I can take this conversation in many ways, but first let me say I've been out of the industry, finger quotes, since I was 12, and I'm 46 now. So I can't tell you how flattered I am to be part of this experience, and the fact that you know, I've met some really amazing people out there, and I'm just flattered by how you've embraced the newer people in the show, and I'm just proud to be part of this family. And then not only that, but the cast who, you know, I worked with part of the people up here, but there's a lot of people here that I've never even met, and the fact that they're treating us like one of the veterans, I'm touched and I'm moved and very appreciative, and I just want to thank you guys for that. In terms of my acting background, I did a lot. I started when I was 11 months old. I did a Pampers commercial. Yeah. So from there, I was in Highway to Heaven, St. Elsewhere, Mr. Belvedere, Family Ties, Amazing Stories, a bunch of commercials, and then I got the gig for Little House, and it's been great for me because I've been able to really reflect on my days from Little House because it's been foreign to me for the last 30 some odd years. But basically, you know, so I showed up and read the lines, right? That's what I did at a Little House. And because I was a kid, I was 9 and 10 years old, you're not aware of the magnitude of what that show was and what it meant to you guys. And now it's just really resonating with me on what the effect of the show was. And I'm honored to be part of it, and I thank you guys. And then after Little House, I was in the burning bed with Farrah Fawcett. So guys out there, I kissed Farrah Fawcett. And then I was in Amazing Stories. I played Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker as a kid. And then after that, I just wanted to be a normal kid. And been in corporate America ever since, married, 2 kids, and just a normal guy. And thank you guys.
Hello, my name is Lindsey Kennedy, and I played Jeb Carter, this guy's brother and son of Pam and Stan. I'm super nervous. Like David, I too have sort of been out of this business for a long time. I've spent the last 10, 20 years in hospitality, owning restaurants in Los Angeles. So I'm not used to talking in front of people. I am, I guess, but not groups like this. So, I mean, my experience has been a lot like David's. We were, similar age. He's a lot older than I am, but similar experience. But yeah, I too had done some acting since a kid. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, and my family moved to LA when I was 7. And I sort of have my parents to thank as well, who said, hey, do you want to get into acting? Do you want to try this? I had done a little bit of like catalog modeling stuff as a kid. Moved to LA, got the agent, did the acting classes, and as things moved along, did a year of a show called Battlestar Galactica. It was actually called Galactica 1980. It was the last year of that show. We found Earth, they let us out, and they pulled the plug on the show. So much for that. A couple episodes of Chips and things like that, but then Little House came along, and I too, I don't think realized having grown up in the 70s, I knew what the show was. I knew how it was a #1 show for many years. So I knew it was a big deal. But yeah, 30-something, 5 years later, to sit here and meet so many people and, just see, like we were talking a little bit earlier about just the genuine love and appreciation that people have for this show. That's been really the most touching thing I've experienced in really a long time. So thank you guys for having me here again. We were the new kids kind of in the show, so thank you guys too. Yeah, see you later.
We're skipping Radimus, I guess. Oh, you're going next. Okay, Hi, I'm Wendy, and I play the role of Baby Grace. I know I don't look like a baby anymore, but I started about 8 months old. I was in season 5, 6, 7, and 8, even though that seems like a long time, but I was really little for those first couple of seasons. Being Baby Grace, being cast as Baby Grace was just a gift, because obviously I did nothing to get that part. I was about 6 months old, and it just came to us by the grace of God, I will say. And Michael Landon took a look at us and said, those are my girls, and that was it. We were part of this amazing family, and I could not be more grateful to be part of this family that I love so dearly. So thank you for having me back again. I'm thrilled to be here, and I love all of you. Thank you so much. Book! I know, I'm sorry, I'm not good at plugging stuff yet. So I have a book coming out. Some of you have it already, and thank you so much for already getting it. It comes out, it's called A Prairie Devotional, and it comes out August 6th. Everywhere you can, what's that line when they say, wherever, wow, there you go, that's what it is. Everywhere books are sold, that's where you can find it. It is a collection of stories from my life and from the episodes of Little House on the Prairie, and I can't wait to share it with you. So, thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Rodimus Parra, and this is my second time in Walnut Grove. I'm very honored to be here again with you. It's extremely hot on this stage. The shade is just starting to help the folks down below. And, soon it'll be on us too. But well, gosh, being here is a privilege, certainly. Being able to have the opportunity to have a microphone in my hand and speak to people is a responsibility and an honor. I am super proud to be in the company of these people, all of whom, including the new guys and gal, is really being part of this family and knowing that we are all a part of your families is really a unique experience and something that I'm extremely grateful for. I wanted to just say one thing about art, and I want to say that, we're all here, all of us, there and here, because of creativity. And the part of certainly Laura Ingalls Wilder, who wrote the books, and Michael Landon, who decided to turn those books into a television series. Creativity and the support of the arts is something that is an incredibly integral part of life and healthy culture. And so just take a second to acknowledge that. And just great to be here. I also, you're not supposed to talk about a book until it's already published, but I'm writing a book as well, and I've had the great encouragement from Allison, who's been, read some chapters and has said, keep going, keep going. I have an interesting story to tell. Since some people talk about their past, I'll just quickly go over that. So I started acting when I was 7 and a half. My mom was up for a part in a movie, and she invited the director over for dinner, and the director met me. Wasn't supposed to. I was supposed to be away from the adults upstairs, but my mom, I found a way to come downstairs, and my mom introduced me. And the director said, hey, your son looks a lot like what I think this kid in the film would be like. And have you ever thought of putting him in acting? And she said, well, not really, no. He said, well, bring him down to the studio and let's see if he can take direction and such. And so she said, okay. And I did a screen test, and I ended up playing Anthony Quinn's dying son in a feature film called A Dream of Kings. It was released in 1969. After that, I started doing a lot of television stuff, and because actors get typecast, and the first thing I did, I was a dying boy. I had a rheumatic heart, and so I played a whole series of kids who were handicapped and mentally challenged, and a monk. I played a grasshopper on the TV series Kung Fu, which was an unusual role. Thank you. Many of you will know the phrase, grasshopper, or patience, grasshopper. Well, that's from the old TV series Kung Fu, and Grasshopper was the character that I played, so there you go. Little House was something that happened after Kung Fu, obviously, and it was the first role I got a chance to play a quote-unquote normal American kid, He was a poet, so he's a little odd in that way, but he was an artist, and he wrote. And Michael actually expressed some of his things he wanted to illustrate through John Jr. a little bit. And then things happened, and boy, Michael had to write out the whole family out of the show, my dad, Victor French, included, and so off I went as well, and he had to make people unhappy about the character, so that's why poor John was found to be not faithful to Mary Ingalls anymore. Yeah, I know. Cheater. I haven't heard that once here, which is great. This is the first trip anywhere I haven't heard somebody say cheater out of the crowd, so it's too late if you're going to do it now. So anyhow, thanks so much for letting me be here with you guys. It's an honor.
Okay, now it's the opportunity of people here. If you'd like to ask some questions, we're going to form a couple of lines. One behind me, one behind Amy. She's waving her mic over there. So kind of work yourself out from the aisles there and form a line. I just want to say that this has been a great experience every time we've come out here. The passion of the fans is amazing. Give yourselves a hand. I've been working with the cast now for about 13 years. And every once in a while, someone asks me, so where are you going this weekend? So I tell them, I'm going out to Manitowoc or Walt. Why are you going out there? Why aren't you going on vacation, to a beach somewhere? So I said, well, there's this group of people. We like to go out and make these little appearances, and it's a great experience to meet these people. And they said, yeah, but what? That was 45 years ago. I mean, who's going to come out for something like that? Well, here's the proof right here. We are the proof right here. So when Amy and I started talking about this year's events about a year ago, so I'll make this quick. So, we're talking about, okay, who we're going to have and come in. So, of course, we want some people that are new. And so I'm thinking, of course, I thought of Dave Friedman because we worked a little bit about getting him into Walton's reunion a while back. So we got to get Dave, and of course we got to get his brother and Pam. And so I talked to Dave. I said, we really want you involved in the reunion this coming year. It's next summer. He said, man, that was a long time ago. They're not going to remember me. I said, okay, let's do this. I'm going to have you join my Facebook page, which some of you have joined, the Facebook Cast Reunion page. Just join that page. You'll see. So I said, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm telling you, they're not going to remember me. So I introduced him on our page. 2 days later, he messages me, he says, what's happening? So we started out and we started announcing little things about the reunion. And, the fans, of course, like I said, are very passionate. And, the first couple weeks, they're like, so when is this happening? Okay. And then a couple weeks later, so are there going to be pictures for sale? So we start getting all this little information. As we go farther down through the months, the fans get a little bit more urgent. They're like, okay, but tell us about this and tell us about that. And then we started announcing who's attending. Okay, who else is attending? And they're getting fierce and they're getting upset. Like, we have to know now. And everybody, raise your hand if you stopped eating, sleeping, or going to work during that time that we were announcing who's attending. I'm sure there are many people here.
She wasn't working to begin with.
So,
I was when we were announcing, yeah.
The last few months, I'm getting kind of scared of some of these fans. And some of them, they're going, oh, give us the answers we seek. Now! But I had help. Because I had the fan whisperer. Allison Arngren. So I'm getting these really urgent messages on Facebook about wanting information. I'm getting scared. I'm looking out my window. I'm imagining all these fans coming down my street in Ohio. They're coming toward my door because they want more information. And they're just like, Paul, tell us now. And of course, Allison pops on there. Well, it's still a couple months away. There's things to be done. That's good. So the fans, oh, thanks, Allison. We'll say, love you in the show. That's the fan, and that's the Prairie power.
It just dropped about 10 degrees here on the stage, by the way. We're a heck of a lot more comfortable than we were 20 minutes ago. And those trees were not as tall 5 years ago, so they're helping too.
Oh, I can see. It's great. My forehead was on fire a minute ago.
Yeah, it was really hot here 10 minutes ago.
Hi, my name is Darren. I don't have any book coming out at all, but my wife and 2 kids and I came all the way from Union, Kentucky to be here, and so this is our first time here as well, for like some of you guys. So I don't know if the questions I'm asking has been asked many times over and over again, but 2 questions. One, do any of you guys have a favorite kind of off-camera Michael Landon story? And 2, was there ever any, with all the kids and teenagers on the lot, any romance going on between the cast?
Nobody loved me. I know. I didn't. Other people did, but Michael was always hilarious. He was the practical joker. He loved to do the practical. It was like a 13-year-old boy gotten the keys to the studio sometimes. He so enjoyed having all the kids on the show because he was a big kid. And he was just always constantly, the hardest part about doing Little House on the Prairie was trying not to crack up laughing during a lot of the scenes. And just general silliness. I mean, the scene where I have my head stuck through a screen door and I'm hanging in the screen door and they decided to leave me there with the shot. So I'm just hanging there. And I said, couldn't you have gotten a dummy for this part? And Michael said, we did. Shut up and get back in the door. It was just kind of a constant thing. He was absolutely hilarious.
One time we were doing a like a dinner scene with the family, and they had the camera on Matt Laberto, and Michael was off camera, and Matt's supposed to be really serious and deliver his lines, and as Matt's trying to deliver these lines, Michael starts shoving the peas up his nose. And Matt's trying so hard not to laugh, and I think in the end he ended up just cracking up. But that was, I think, Michael's way of kind of trying to break the tension and make it a fun place to be, as well as a workplace, you know, for us kids.
I'd like to know what Michael Landon was really like working with him, and if you had any more experiences that you'd like to share us about him.
I'll tell a story that my mom actually just told me a couple months ago, and this took place in Carolyn and Charles' bedroom downstairs. And Michael has me in the room with him, and he's saying, okay, this is what I want you to do. He's giving me instructions, and I'm sitting there, 3 years old, whatever. And he said, okay, so do you understand? And I said, no way, Jose. And Michael was kind of shocked, and the cameraman just started busting up. And I think Michael Landon decided that he just needed to laugh, because, nobody says no to Michael Landon except for Baby Grace.
I think Michael was a brilliant director because he was also directing the show, producing the show, and writing the show. He did everything. And it's funny because he was so, on the one hand, he had this incredible work ethic, and on the other hand, he was always laughing, kidding around. On the other hand, he was also this incredible director who managed to get these performances out of very young children, out of all these different actors from all different walks of life, and just create this incredible chemistry between the actors. And some of the older guys who were not small children who worked with him, got to be directed as adults and go through that. So Dean, you were talking earlier today, you were like literally just out the door of college and flung onto the show.
Yes.
It was a little scary.
Well, stepping into something that had been operating, going along beautifully, top 10 show on NBC, and going to be introduces this new character, and I was definitely terrified of, you don't want to feel like you're going to mess it up in some way. This is like this great thing, and could you mess it up? Well, the question about Michael, Michael was so certain about everything that he was doing. I never saw, and I'm sure, I can't imagine any of us ever saw a moment of doubt or hesitation in Michael's eye. He knew exactly what his plan A was, plan B, plan C. And his crew was just joined at the hip with him, and they would have taken him anywhere he wanted to go, and everyone was prepared to buy into whatever the vision was. It was so crystal clear and beautifully planned. It all just worked perfectly, all the time. It worked really wonderfully. He was a gifted director, actor, writer, producer, and a name who you don't necessarily know, the man behind him, a man named Kent McCrae, who was his line producer. Kent was really the genius that kept all the gears turning and gave Michael the freedom to be as wonderfully creative as he was. Kent made all the pieces fit together from a business perspective and from a production perspective. It was an extraordinary group of people to work with, led by Michael Landon and Kent McCrae.
Hello, my name's Janice, and this is my first time here. I'm visiting from Detroit. And this is directed to Charlotte. I'm a teacher. Have you ever had any funny instances that happen in the schoolroom? Anything unusual or funny that happened on the set of the schoolroom?
It wasn't exactly on the set of the schoolroom. It was outside of the schoolroom. And we weren't actually shooting at the time, but I don't know if you realize that the costumes that we wore Miss Beadle had 3 petticoats under her skirt, you know, high neck blouse, and it was all very, very hot out there. And one afternoon, I got a wasp up under my skirt. And I was standing in the middle of Walnut Grove. I couldn't just go, ah! And lift up my skirt. So Richelene, who was the wardrobe, just dashing around trying to find some place so we could get my skirt up high enough so this wasp would go away. I think everybody, once they figured out what had happened, because Miss Beadle was running around Walnut Grove going, ah!
Charlotte, you have a wonderful story when you auditioned for the show where you had to demonstrate that sort of that teacherly presence. Yeah. That's a good story to tell.
Okay, thank you. I had never heard of Little House on the Prairie when I was auditioning. All I know was that it was a school teacher. That was the only clue I had, and they gave me a script, which was the day that Laura and Mary first come to school. You know, it's called Country Girls, because Nellie, the little brat. Country Girls. Anyway, so my audition was to welcome Laura and Mary into the schoolroom. Well, I walk into this office, and there's like 8 men sitting around, and our producer, Ed Friendly, was behind this big desk. And I went in and they didn't really introduce me. They just, you know, Charlotte Stewart, she's reading for Miss Beadle. I said, okay. And they said, are you ready to read? And I said, may I sit behind the desk? Well, all these men looked at each other like, okay. And Mike starts giggling. And our producer, Mr. Friendly, gets up from behind the desk and goes over and sits with Mike, and I sat down behind the desk, and they're still kind of looking, and I went, quiet! Oh my God, you heard a pin drop. Except Michael Landon, who started giggling. And as I left the audition, and the rest of the audition was me welcoming Laura and Mary and all. As I left the audition, I thought, oh my God, I have so blown this so bad. And it turns out by the time I got home, my agent called and said I had the part. I don't know, maybe it was maybe that's what did it.
Yes, I'm Richard from deep South Texas, and this is my wife's lifelong dream to be here tonight. We've got 54 years together, but my 2 questions is, so many of you were very young, and how much was your parents or a parent involved in you and behind the scenes as well as when you were on the set? And the second question is, share with us a memorable guest star that was on. One that comes to mind was Johnny Cash. That one pops into my mind, and June Carter Cash. Those are my 2 questions. Thank you for being here.
Well, I think for both Wendy and Brenda and Lindsay and myself, our moms were always on the set with us. On a rare occasion, my dad would actually bring us when he wasn't working, but they were a very big presence with us on the set because as young as when we started, we weren't in preschool yet, and so they watched us when we weren't working. They were, you know, our care providers and everything on the set. Well, my dad is Billy Greenbush, and he's mostly known for doing. He did 5 Easy Pieces with Jack Nicholson. He did Electric Eye and Blue with Robert Blake, and he did Tom Horn with Steve McQueen, which was one of Steve McQueen's last movie. But he also made appearances. He was on The Hulk 3 times. He did Dukes of Hazzard. He did a bunch of different, like MASH. He played Cowboy, the helicopter pilot. And so when he wasn't working, he would actually come with us to work. And there was a few times where he actually was with us on the set.
There was a lot of that. My parents had met in the theater in Canada, actually ran a theater in Canada, so it was like everybody was in show. I thought everybody was in show business till I was like 7. But my mom was working less. My Auntie Marion actually took me to the set, because my mother, actually, you all know who my mother is. My mother was the voice of Casper the Friendly Ghost. She was also the voice of Gumby, Sweet Polly Purebred, Underdog's girlfriend, and Davy of Davy and Goliath. So that was a trip. It was like, my mother is Gumby. Woo. So that was wonderfully weird. But yeah, a lot of people had actors in their families. There was a lot of that where we were exposed to show business early. And so now, well, my parents, though, they had my aunt who was a retired concert soprano. And so she would take me to set because she was retired. She liked hanging out with me, and she had a giant crush on Michael Landon. So she was like, bonus, yes, I will hang out with you all day.
My mom took a back seat to her acting career once I started acting, but it was actually her being on the set with me on Little House and her conversations with Michael during production that led Michael to casting her twice as two separate characters on Little House. One, she was in an episode called Centennial, where she played the Russian wife of Theodore Bickel, and so she. That was one of her first acting gigs in a long time. And then a couple of years later, she was in an episode called Harriet's Happenings as a Norwegian mom, Norwegian family. And it was actually because of that she actually started her whole second chapter, her career later in life, which Michael again kind of fostered. And they had conversations, spoke all the time, and I think my mom really liked Michael, and Michael obviously respected her enough to give her a couple of jobs on the show. So kind of interesting that we never had scenes together, my mom and I, but we were on the same show together. So
thank you. I'll just add to that. I mean, so growing up as a childhood actor, my mom was basically, I couldn't have done it without her. I was her full-time job, so she shuttled me around all the time. And one day when I decided to kind of throw in the towel about acting, I don't know how gradual that was, but what I recall is one day she picked me up after school, and I said, you know, Mom, I think I'm done. I just want to be a kid. I just want to play ball with Johnny and ride bikes and play baseball and this and that. And I would imagine there was some sense of relief because she got some independence back. She hasn't told me that, but I suspect that might be the case.
Hi, my name is Kira. How did you do the mud scene with Laura?
The mud scene. I love that one. So back to school. It's back to school. Laura's trying to get graduate school early because she wants to be a teacher and take the big teacher exam, so she has to take the school exam. And like a fool, she asked Nellie for advice, is what happened. Why, after all those years of my lying to her, she came to me for advice about that test, I will never know. And of course, I told her it was all vocabulary, and it wasn't, and she flunks the test. So we get in this huge fight in a giant mud puddle. And it was kind of intense because we did things very real on Little House. People have asked if that was fake mud. We did not use fake mud. We only used real, live, organic mud on Little House on the Prairie. It was out in Big Sky Ranch in Simi Valley, California, where many, many things are filmed. And there's this area where, in the summer, it was a cow pasture. And in the winter, it was a duck pond when it filled with water. So that's not all mud. It's very organic, and she whacks me, we fall in, and we were kind of given free rein because we had fought so many times we'd gotten to where we could choreograph our own fight scenes. And they would, bring in stunt women sometimes for things like the river or some horseback ride, but they just let us do that because we'd been doing it so long. They knew that Melissa and I would not hurt each other. We could fight all day and no one got hurt. And we enjoyed it so much because at one point there was no sound. We were just told, go ahead, knock yourselves out. So we actually started calling each other terrible names and yelling at each other and laughing hysterically. And so we're laughing. And she at one point, watch closely when you watch that scene, she gets me in a headlock and I'm screaming and her hand comes around and she shoves a whole wad of mud right in my mouth. And when we're done doing the scene, there's a set doctor. There's always a doctor. They followed all the rules. We had a medic on the set, and he said, now I've got stuff. Did you get anything in your eye? Because it wouldn't be sanitary. Did you get anything in your eye? And I said, my eye? I just ate like a quart of whatever was in that pond. So, but apparently I'm impervious to everything. So I did survive that. But yes, it was amazing. We got to really roll around in the mud. We were so dirty, they had to use like a hose, like almost a fire hose, up to the water truck to hose us down before we could even go up to the dressing rooms to change.
nice to see you in person. Oh my God. Sorry, my heart's like racing so hard right now. I have 2 questions for you. What would be your advice for someone who is seeking an acting career? And 2, what is something about filming now that you wish they had way back then?
Those are interesting questions. I always tell people who ask me, how do I get into acting, or if you're a young person and you're still going to school, I would say get involved in the theater at your school, your drama department. I don't know how old you are, I'm sorry. Do you mind telling me how old?
21.
21, okay. So are you going to college?
Not at the moment, no.
No, okay. So you're asking about how to become a professional actor. Practice, right? Get involved in community theater. That would be the first thing to do. Every community has some sort of theater thing going on, right? Exactly.
They could do the pageant.
Exactly.
Get in the pageant.
Right. and from there, you'll find out if you have a talent for it, or if you just like the process. And if that's true, and you suddenly realize, wow, I have a real passion for this, then you're a candidate for going to a higher level of classes in a bigger city somewhere, and getting involved in theater there, and going to an acting school, and then if you get that wild hair, go to Chicago or New York or LA and find out what it's like. It's not easy. There is no one prescribed path. There are many different ways it can happen. Talent is a part of it. Being in the right place at the right time is the other part of it.
Yes, it is.
So it's
Hardcore perseverance.
It's a crapshoot. Pardon the expression, but it really is. So.
I wish they had, because we were shooting on film back then, 35mm real Panavision film, which is beautiful and has a lovely quality. But in order back then to light film, that even when it was daytime and this light or brighter, they still had the lights, the big 10K lights with smoke coming out of them, and it was already insanely hot. But when you were standing on camera with the lights on you, it was like another 10 degrees hotter, and it was ridiculous. When it reflected, the amount of light was just blinding, and I have pale blue eyes, so I was like, I can't see, and it was awful. And now I go to film stuff, and they have a camera that's about yay big, this little thing, they're tiny little cameras, and there's like no lighting, and I'm like, it's awfully dark in here, how can you see the film? And they're like, hi, it's digital. And they don't need the insane amount of light that we needed way back in the 70s in film, and they don't need it. And then also we were under pressure. Now we only have so many feet of film we're supposed to use today. You're not gonna run out of film now. So to have had the digital, then now when I shoot things, I haven't had to squint in 20 years when I film, because they're not blasting me with the light anymore. I love the new technology. I'm like, where was that when I was being blinded when I was 14?
If you can imagine, when you take a magnifying glass and you burn ants and stuff like that, that's kind of what it was like. There's literally an arc. There's a fire inside a housing, and that fire is being focused through a lens on you. So it's. Really, it's like it was 20 minutes ago here, like I said before.
And not to mention at the same time, the bright sun in Simi Valley was coming at you too. I just watched an episode where the baby dies and Laura's trying to get Doc Baker to leave town and gets the whole town against him. And there's a scene where she brings everybody out of the church and we all go, and I think we're standing in front of the Mercantile, and she's trying to talk Doc Baker into staying. And if you just watch, every time they're just panning, all of us standing there looking at him, we're crying. Especially light-eyed people really have a hard time with this, and you can't help but have the tears come down. Yeah, so they used to tell us, just stand there and look right into that arc light with your eyes closed, and then when we say action, open your eyes. So, but it hurt. It really hurt.
It actually was painful.
And then don't ever give up your dream.
Yes.
Don't ever give up your dream or your passion. You can take a side trip and do a ton of other things, but there'll be urgings inside of you. If they're there already, you already know that, and you'll never be able to ignore that. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's very different today than it ever used to be, but there are a lot of ways, a lot of people to guide you, a lot of books, a lot of things like that. You've got a film commission here in Minnesota. You just check with the film commission, see what's coming through town, and see what you can get involved with if theater, camera is your thing. But yeah, being in a pageant, being on stage is great. I had done
right after Little House, I went on to Days of Our Lives, and I remember I was shooting both at the same time because we thought the show was canceled, and Michael called and said, don't do anything else. We've got 3 made-for-TV movies, or we called them Movie of the Weeks in those days, coming up next, and we'll need you for those. And I said, I'm so sorry, I just signed a contract with NBC to do Days of Our Lives, and I've been on it for a month. And he said, don't worry, I'll work it out. And he did, so I could do both things, because they were both NBC shows. But therefore, I was working 2 things at one time, and I was also in a play. So depending on where I was working, it kind of made my decision of what freeway I was getting on, where I was going. So we were running late one night on Days, and I had to race off to the theater to get there on time to do this play. And an actress on the set of Days said, do you think it's important for an actor to do stage work? And it had never occurred to me that you would ever even think about being an actor had you not spent some time learning the foundation and the fundamentals of being on stage. And my mouth dropped open, and then I realized she was this gorgeous woman, and she was there because she looked that way. And it really didn't matter how she acted. But I would highly encourage you to learn the fundamentals, and that really comes from stage. It's completely true. And I tell people, act just to act. Because nowadays, everyone wants to become, a YouTube influencer and star and have a Disney series and a Nickelodeon series. You don't actually have to do that. You can be in theater, or you can make your own films, or you could be on YouTube, and you can just perform, to act, to do plays, to do shows, to be in movies for the sake of doing it. You don't necessarily have to move to Hollywood and be the next Nickelodeon star. You could just do it because you like it.
I'm going to add a contrarian perspective here. I think it is a very tough business to be in. And it tests your emotional stability, your financial stability, your self-esteem, all of that every day. I often say to people, and kids look at me like I've blown up their lives, but I do say, if there is nothing else in your life that you can imagine yourself doing, then that's what you need to do. In contrast to that, if there's anything else you can imagine yourself doing, do that. Because it's just so brutal. It really is. And I'm here to tell you, it is very tough. When it's going great, there is nothing in the world that's better. When it's not going well, there is nothing worse. It's awful when it's not going well. So I'd be happy to sit with you and tell you horror stories.
Between the lot of us, we could depress you for hours, really. We could.
Yeah. So anyway, but I also love what Pam said, where she said, if this is your dream, you've got to follow your dream. But that comes under the category, if there's nothing else you can see yourself doing, then you have to do it. So she's right. When we were both right. But if you're on the fence, even a little bit on the fence, get off the fence. Yeah. So, good luck.
Hi, my name is Nicole. I'm from Rockford, Minnesota. Carter Boys, you probably know me. Hi. Anyways, my question is, what are some of your favorite memories of cast members or crew members even that have passed away?
Well, one of my favorite memories is of Victor French, because Victor French used to play with us kids when we weren't actually filming. And one of the games that we used to play, and he would allow us to do this with him for hours, but he would sit in a chair and we'd make a long line, and when you got to the front of the line, you had to stand in front of him without laughing, and he would make all these faces and do all these, and pretty soon he'd get us to where when you just stepped up, you would just bust out laughing and you'd go to the back of the room, and that's one of the funnest memories I have of playing on the set.
I have one following on Victor as well, and maybe Michael, or maybe he wasn't there, but I know the show's a pretty wholesome show, but I learned how to play liar's poker from Victor's French with dollar bills and the rest of the crew. I don't know if everybody had that experience, but...
Did you ever play with Kent McRae?
I think so.
He had like 9 nines on the
all
bill.
the time. Yeah, every bill he had ringers. Yeah, he had ringer bills that he would bring and just take you out. But yeah, so that's mine. Sorry.
I got a cool story real quick I want to add. And I don't think anybody here knows this. So I stayed at Michael's house one weekend with Leslie and a few of his kids. And one really cool thing, and this is weird. So I remember we were at the grocery store. It was me, Michael, my brother in real life, and then Leslie. I don't recall if any other kids were there. And we were at the grocery store, and we were getting snacks and candy because we were going to watch movies that night at their house. We were going through the grocery store, and I accidentally burped. I was so embarrassed. I said, "Oh my gosh, excuse me." He said, "What? You can do better than that." And so he burped a little louder, and we were burping in the grocery store in Malibu with Michael Landon. So I thought that was weird.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth, and I was just curious if any of you had any thoughts on kind of the backlash that Laura and her books have received over the past year, and with the whole award and everything. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, the Laura Ingalls is that one because
The politically incorrect aspects of
one entity that has an award or had an award
Right.
named Laura Ingalls
Right.
Award said we're not going to call it the Laura Ingalls Award.
Right.
I mean, luckily everybody else who had one is just going full steam ahead with whatever they were doing, and it's still it's basically it was one board of directors, 8-9 people basically who signed
Yeah.
this. Everybody else is still like, yeah, fine,
Yeah.
whatever. The one.
I think that our culture has a desire today to sanitize itself of anything that might be unpleasant. And so instead of using the unpleasant moments like blackface in DeSmet or Ma expressing her unhappiness with Native Americans as a teaching moment, to say, look how we have evolved. We don't do blackface anymore, and we have a very different perspective about Native Americans. Instead, we have a group of people out there saying we just have to say that never happened. Well, there's no way the culture evolves if we keep wiping it clean of all the things that happened. How do we know where we've been, where we're going if we don't know where we've been? So I think that they've done this with Mark Twain. They've done it with all of these great books are being sanitized. I think it's a horrible mistake for our country. It does us no good.
It's true. When you read the chapter about Ma and Lindsey, Laura actually argues with her. I mean, the book doesn't say Native Americans are bad. Ma says that she is terrified of Native Americans. And
Laura's fine, and Pa's fine.
And then Laura in the story says, no, Ma, you're wrong.
Right.
Remember when the Native Americans
Right.
saved us from starving to death, and brings up that point. So it's like, okay, well, which thing is it that they're unhappy about? Because Laura rather specifically stated she was not anti-Native American in the book. So
It's a perspective. It's a perspective. I think Laura did explore both sides of this. So I think that the exploration is healthy. No one passed a final judgment here, but we can't even talk about a divergence of opinion anymore. And it's very disappointing.
Hi up there. I'm honored to be here. I too am a.
Your cookies are great, by the way.
Thanks for the cookies.
Thank you.
Cookie guy.
Thank you, cookie guy. I too am a cancer survivor of 34 years. I don't have any questions. That was my question was about the cookies. It's an honor to be here. I drove all the way from Pennsylvania. The cookies survived. And Miss Beadle, I can't find the corner. They got everything roped off.
Then just sit down and be quiet.
Very good. Anyways, it was nice meeting you all today. You're very nice people. And I want to thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for signing that picture that my Aunt Priscilla painted of the Harvest of Friends. And when I give it to her on her birthday next week, it's also a family reunion. I know it's gonna bring tears to her eyes of happiness, because she knows nothing about it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashley, and it's an honor to be here. I only have one question for Allison. What suggestions do you have for someone who wants to be an actress / singer to embrace their inner villain?
Oh, very important to embrace your inner villain.
To embrace their inner what?
Inner villain.
Oh, yes.
And this is true. And obviously, as I said, acting can be fun and do it to do it, but it's true. I see this a lot when people sometimes have to play negative characters or villains. Many actors, especially actresses, will sort of balk at it because people go into show business to be loved. And of course, I go and I get this great role, and now I'm hated. And people want to be liked.
People love to hate you.
They love to hate you. And people talk about wanting their character to be likable. Well, Sir Anthony Hopkins, when he played Hannibal Lecter, was not concerned about being likable. He didn't worry at all. He just went ahead talking about, killing people and eating them, and it was great. So that's the thing. If you're playing someone who is the villain, who is the bad guy, who is the heavy, you can't sit there and go, I think I'll make them likable. You have to play their truth. You justify. And also, remember, they think they're doing the right thing. So when you're playing them that you are absolutely dead right. Why is this Laura Ingalls poor girl who barely has shoes so popular? It's just wrong. And, and why don't more people like me? Don't they know I'm rich and have a store? So you just go with it that is real. And then your characters sometimes can be likable if you play the truth of them. But I find it enormously fun to play the bad guys, and the villains are some of the best roles.
They're always the best parts.
They're always the best parts. But yeah, you can't be afraid of it. Every now and then I have seen movies and TV shows where I've seen someone playing the bad guy and I go, and I can see they're kind of choking because they're terrified to jump that fence. They're going, if I really play this or that evil, people will dislike me. Yes, and you'll be doing it right. Yes, that's the idea.
All I have to say, in contrast to that, do anyone remember Michael Landon's movie, The Loneliest Runner? The woman who played Michael's mother was it Lance Kerwin who played Michael as a little boy? That woman was so awful. She was great. She was awful. She never worked again after playing that part. And she was great, but she was evil incarnate, and people really were just flipped out about it.
Well, Louise Fletcher, Nurse Ratched, she had a heck of a time getting work for a while.
That was a nasty.
People were terrified of her after.
So you were funny evil.
Thank you.
Yeah, you were funny evil.
I beg to differ. Okay. My favorite scene with Nellie is when she thinks seriously that she is being so nice. My house is the biggest house in Walnut Grove, and we have the best dishes and the best silverware, and I have the prettiest dress, and she really thinks that is going to make her likable.
And that's what got me the job. Because at my audition, which was also totally crazy, that was the thing. It was all the stuff from Country Girls of, I don't think the country girls have a penny. And the My Home speech. And it was Michael and Kent McRae and Ed Friendly in the room. And I had no idea what was going on. I'd read for the part of Laura earlier. I had no idea what was going on. I'd read for the part of Mary. Can you imagine? No. And they call me back. And I look, and my father was with me at the audition, and I read it for him, and he starts laughing, and I said, this girl she's horrible. And he said, don't change a thing. Don't read it again. Don't practice it again. Put the pages down. Don't look at them. You go in and you read it exactly like you just did it now. Don't move, don't breathe, don't do anything, just go. And I went in, and I read it for them. And it was that thing about the dishes, 3 sets of dishes, and one for when someone very important comes to visit, which we've never even used yet. I think that was what did it. And they're laughing hysterically. Michael's just going, ah! And then they said, could you do it again, please? And I said, yes, what would you like me to change? And he said, nothing, just read the thing about the house again. And they wanted to see if I could do that twice. And the same thing, by the time I got home, I was hired. And that was the thing, is I ran with it. I didn't shy away from it. As soon as I read it, wow, this girl is really awful. She is unlikable. She's snotty and terrible and spoiled and dreadful and mean to people. And I went, yes, I can do this. And I just went there, and I've had people. I mean, I had somebody throw an orange soda at my head in a parade once. I've had people say, I hate you, and I always say, well, thank you, you're too kind, thank you. Because the angrier people got watching it, the better job I was doing. And if you can understand that and not worry about, oh, they don't like me, they hate me, and just jump over that fence, then you can play the scariest person ever in movies, yeah.
Hi, I'm Taya Kirstein. I was wondering, are all the scripts like on script, or were some of the scenes like improvised?
In other words, was it all scripted or did we improvise?
Very scripted.
Yeah, very scripted. Very scripted. I think there was a little improvisation, but very little. Very little.
Although one time I was sitting at the dinner table and...
You were always improvised.
Right! So I got to do that. And it is actually the episode when Almanzo is coming over to basically ask for Laura's hand, and he's all nervous at the table, if you remember that. And baby Grace is sitting in the high chair, and all of a sudden she has 2 spoons. And Michael says, Grace, how many spoons do you need to eat? And obviously that wasn't scripted. So I think they totally improvised when it came to kids that were young, because, and it makes it real. When the kids cry and kids do things at the table, that's just, so.
Yeah. Once in a blue moon, if something crazy happened and it was natural and you threw in a line, Mike will go, wait, where'd that come from? Oh, I like it. Yeah, keep that in, yeah.
And I noticed there were little things at the ends of Catherine McGregor, who played Harriet Olsen.
Oh, Catherine McGregor. There was improv.
Yeah, Victor was very good at that. Those very tiny things where they get their lesson learned and the whole group gets to laugh at them, and the bully gets, it's same thing with you. You play those characters because you know that we're all going to laugh at you, and then you're going to do it again, and the townspeople know you're going to do it again, but you're just being you. But she had a great way of always being able to, and it wasn't scripted, it was just the way she
Also, okay, so Almanzo, who also kept calling him Almanzo because we didn't know what we were doing, but it's Almanzo. And then, of course, Harriet Olsen called you what, Dalzamo? Zaldamo. In the script, it was Dalzamo. She was supposed to mess it up and say, oh, Dalzamo. And Catherine kept messing it up and saying, Zaldamo. And initially, Michael said, no, Dalzamo. Oh, Zaldamo. No, Dalzamo. And they went around like this for about 15 minutes until finally said, fine, Zaldamo, I give up. And Zaldamo it was, and it was hysterical. So, yes.
Catherine was an irrepressible improviser. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Angela, and I saved her life because she almost died of a diabetic coma. But I just want to let you know that I have 2 questions, one for Allison and one for that plays Almanzo. How was that cinnamon chicken, and did you enjoy it?
The cinnamon chicken? Which?
Yeah, the cinnamon chicken.
Oh, the lovely cayenne pepper dinner that Laura fixed for us. Yes. Well, when we were doing that, it was fabulous because we're sitting there going, okay, so how crazy are we going to get here? We got to go nuts. And at one point you said, well, do we want to put like a pinch of like pepper, just like to see, like get the feel, get it going, prime the pump, as it were, because it wasn't cayenne pepper, and once we got going, I mean, you were red in the face, you were choking, it was just awesome. And Michael had me grab the glass when he goes, okay, and I started drinking the water, it's like coming out my nose, and I stopped, and Michael went, no, cut. Okay, fill up the glass. Now, chug that entire enormous glass of water and don't put it down till it's empty. And I was like, but he said, no, I don't care if water comes out your nose, I don't care if water comes out the side of your mouth, you can drown, really, just, but I swear this will be better. Do not put the glass down until it is empty. And he said, and keep it rolling, do not cut, and I will just refill the glass.
Yeah, and you had to pump, prime hitting the pump to fill the glass again
Yep,
and
yep.
keep drinking. And
I chugged it, and I did. If you watch it, my eyes are bulging out of my head. Water is coming out of my nose, both sides of my mouth. But I keep it because Michael is off camera going, "Don't you put that glass down! Don't you put that glass down! Chug, chug, chug!" And I did, and it is brilliant. It is. I almost drowned, and it's the funniest thing ever. So yes, he
Was I in
he
that
totally
scene?
right.
Was I in that scene with you?
You were, and you were hacking, screaming. You were screaming. Oh, it was lovely. And you were all red in the face, and it was lovely, lovely, lovely.
It was a fun scene to do. It was a fun scene to do. And I'm Dean, by the way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but it was great. Michael loved writing those kinds of scenes to put people sort of out on the edge of discomfort. And they were great fun.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Hi, my name is Andrea, and I'm from Georgia. And Nellie, what's your favorite episode?
She says my favorite episode. I think we all have favorite. We should do all our favorite episodes. But yes, my favorite episode is when I go down the hill in the wheelchair. Everybody's favorite episode. Because where do they let you do that? What kind of job would you even have? No, it's totally my favorite episode. It's the best thing ever. Who's got favorite episodes?
My favorite episode is Ma's Holiday because Carrie gets into so much trouble.
Is that when they got nailed to the roof?
That's when
nailed the skirt to the roof.
There's a few things that happen. Carrie gets nailed to the roof and then runs away on Mr. Edwards again, so she gets tied to the laundry pole in jail and paces around the pole. And then he finally can't find her again. He's looking everywhere and he thinks she's in the creek, and he goes and he sits on the bed out of frustration, and she pops out from underneath the bed and says, "Boo!"
My favorite episode is Here Come the Brides, where Nellie and Miss Beadle elope. No, it's not what you think.
Each other. The pig farmer!
We don't elope together. I elope with the pig farmer, and she tries to elope with his son.
My favorite episode was the last summer, and Vera Miles was my favorite guest star. If you ever saw Psycho, she was in that. It's the episode where the kids are trying to get David goes to work for her, Jason goes to work for her, making money. And when it comes time to buy a gift, she sells him for a couple of dimes or bucks or something, this incredible, beautiful brooch. And of course I'm jealous, and I'm offended that she's teaching him how to fly fish and how to ride a horse, things I think I should be doing and John Carter should be doing. So I get jealous of her until I find out that she's dying, and then I have second thoughts. And so it ends up that he brings me the brooch and gives it to me, and I brought it. They let me have it after we destroyed the town and everything was over. They said, "What do you want?" And I said, "The brooch," and they let me have it. So I brought it here. It's on display in the museum, I think.
Yes, it is.
So if you want to have a look, it's there. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Out on display with the picture of the two of you.
Okay, wonderful.
My favorite episode is Dance With Me with guest star Ray Bolger, and I have a little scene with Ray, and he played the character of Toby No, and I actually named my son Toby after Ray Bolger from the show. Oh yes, Ray Bolger was the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz, and many other things, but that's probably what he's most well
famous for. I would say my favorite. I'm going to go to a favorite scene, and I'm not sure if it's you or your sister that I told the Three Bears.
The Three Bears.
Yeah.
It is Brenda.
It's Brenda.
Yes, it is Brenda. I wish it wasn't, but it was, and I didn't have a choice about it. But
So yeah, I got to tell the Three Bears to baby Grace, and I sort of got a little puffed up about this because I knew this is something that I could do, and I felt comfortable about it. Michael came down. He said, "Look, do you need some help? I can do the off camera on this. I can read if we needed to get a reaction." I said, "I got this. I got this scene. This is not a problem. I could do this." And he went, "Oh." and he just sort of walked away, and it was no problem. But it was one of those things. It was wonderful to be able to interact with the two of you. As it turned out, it was only
That is so sweet.
yeah. So it was a really fun moment to have.
Are you tired yet? No. Are you ready to go to sleep? No.
Hey, my name's Mikhail. My question for you guys today is about the transition from having the Edwards in town to the Garveys in town. I know it happened like season 4. And how was that for the cast, having that transition, and why did that transition happen?
You're up, Rob. I said Edwards Garvey.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, being the oldest adopted son of Isaiah Edwards and Grace Edwards, yeah. So Michael Landon and Victor French were good friends, working buddies, drinking buddies, and there was a moment during the show, because Victor did not have a series contract. He was actually a episode-to-episode contract player, and he was given an opportunity to do a pilot for a comedy series, a sitcom called Carter Country. Or I think it was around the time that Carter was president. Yeah, and he was to play the sheriff, and they actually shot a pilot. And Michael was very upset that Victor had not come to him directly and said, I have this opportunity, Michael, you think I can go do this? He didn't ask permission, he just went and did this, and he felt okay doing it, again, because he wasn't under a long-term contract. So Michael actually did not look at it that way, and was deeply upset with Victor, and called him on it, and the two of them had a real falling out that lasted about 3 years. Or more, just a little over 3 years. But, and so Michael decided to get rid of the whole family. But he had to resolve the issue around my character, who was supposed to probably come back from college and marry Mary Ingalls when she goes blind. But he decided to 86 the whole family. So what happened was he wrote this episode, which is the one where he and Mary come to Chicago to visit me, and that's where you find out about what happens to John Jr., that he's been writing love letters back to home, and he's dating this society girl at the same time. In one sentence, during a scene where we are at dinner, Mary and Pa and myself, here's how the whole family got written out. Michael asks John Jr., "So John, are you going to come back to Walnut Grove, or are you going to go visit your family in California?" And in that one sentence, the Edwards family was in California. And that was my last episode. So 3 years later, after I had left the show and I had come back from studying acting in New York myself, and I found out that Victor French and Michael Landon had actually made friends again. And I was like very excited. I'm like, great, I just trained in New York on the stage, and I'm ready to come back in. And I found out they were shooting at Universal Studios on the back lot, and I went to go visit the set, talked my way past the guards, which you can't do these days, but you could back then. And I got on the set, and there I see familiar faces, and they're like, "Oh, Rodimus is here, Rodimus." And Michael, "Hey, Michael, Rodimus is here." And Michael said, "Hey, Rodimus, how's it going? We just shot the scene where we found your dead body." And they're all laughing, and I'm laughing too on the outside. It was a very difficult moment, but by then, him and Victor made up, and they continued the series together, and then of course, they did Carter Country together. Highway to Heaven, excuse me. And they went on, quite successfully, but without me.
Because they killed you.
They killed me. I was dead. Yeah, I was dead. So I hope that answers your question to some degree.
I have a question. My name is Layla for Nellie. What is your least favorite episode?
Question for who was that?
For Nellie, what's your least favorite?
Least favorite.
Allison, you mean? Question for Allison.
We probably all have least favorite episodes. The only episodes, I sometimes didn't like the episodes when we'd have like the big Founders Day picnics or the ball games, because they took absolutely forever to film, and they would shoot like the game we were watching first, and then they would shoot us, and we'd sort of be sitting in the stands like you are now, but there wouldn't be a game or anything happening, and we'd all have to go, "Yay!" "Oh, yay!" to like nothing. And so that was very tiring. The one episode, I like the episode, but it's the one episode where even I wonder if I'm too mean. The episode I almost could. The music box. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, and then one has the dream sequences where she's in a dungeon. I hang her. It's like what? Wait. But that's the one with the poor girl with the stammer, Katie Kurtzman, who's playing the girl stutters, Anna. And Laura's encouraging her to be with all these other people to speak and everything. And she gets in my club, and I tell her that there's a password and that she has to say Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. I mean, I can barely say that. And the stuttering girl is trying to say this, and I keep saying, I can't hear you, and say it faster. And she's sobbing and crying, and I'm laughing at her. And even while we were shooting it, I said, you know, I think I hate me now. This might be a little much. So yeah, that's the episode where even I hate me. It's so bad. Who has a least favorite?
Well, I have a least favorite. With coming on the show the 9th season, so they'd all been there for 8 years, and my very least favorite episode comes down to one day, which was the final movie where they blow up the town. And boy, it was a tough day, especially for those here who have been with the show for a long time.
I've never seen it.
Oh my gosh.
You won't watch it. You won't even watch it.
Yeah, I mean, can I talk, or would you rather I didn't? Because I won't go there if you don't want to. It was just very emotional, and even for me. So I get why you didn't look at it at all. But they blew up the town without any of us there, because for safety reasons and legal reasons we couldn't be there, so they blew up the town. And then they brought us in the next day on a gloomy morning to shoot the reaction shots. And all they were doing was saying boom, or there's an explosion, or whatever, and we were just looking at nothing like the ball games, but everyone was so quiet. And did you remember, was it so? Or you were
I
there
was
that
gone,
day?
but I've watched it. It's weird.
Do you remember? It was very, and especially for those of them who had been on that ride for 9 years. And but even for me, and I don't know if you boys remember what a sad day that really was, because it was truly a sad day. They had to leave the land by contract the way it was found, which was empty. There was nothing there, and that's why he wrote this wonderful script about blowing up the town. But when we got to that last final day, and some of you have that beautiful picture, that long, fish lens thing.
Oh, that he's
photo.
a group photo. Oh, I saw
Yeah.
several people had that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of tears in that photo.
Years later, we did an interview with NBC on their news program, where a lot of us from the cast came out. Mrs. Olson and Mr. Olson and Nellie, and a lot of people were out there. And he interviewed us, and of course there's nothing there. So they wanted to do a walking shot, where the cameraman's here, and I'm walking along with Allison and the interviewer. And I got to a point, I said, "Where's the creek? We always walked across the bridge. Where's the creek?" Allison said, "Charlotte, that wasn't real. That was a phony creek, and I never knew it. For 4 years, I walked over that bridge into Walnut Grove, and I didn't know it wasn't real."
Simi Valley it's bone dry. They brought in that mill and the thing. They pumped all of that in. There's not a drop of water out there. It's like a desert.
I was wondering if Mary or Laura or Carolyn ever come to any of these reunion things.
We had an event in Sonora, California. It was a film festival. I think it was a benefit for Michael's cancer charity, too. And we had a whole gaggle of us. And Melissa was at that, and Matt, who is Albert, was at that, and a whole bunch, of course, Karen. Karen's been to Walnut Grove a couple times. Karen's done a couple of events by herself and with different groups of us. Melissa did the one, in Arizona. That's right, we all went to Tombstone. Man, everybody went to that. That was crazy. So we've had a couple get-togethers where we got just about everybody. But then usually we have little ones where there's like, me and Dean or me and Charlotte, little like groups of 2 or 3. And then now it's like, it looks like every 5 years we're going to just drag as many of us as we can physically get out here at a time. Some people are working, like we almost got Hersha. Hersha was scheduled and Stan was scheduled, and like, I can't do it. And we have sometimes people come and then they get work or they can't do it. And some people are just like, I don't know. You guys go this time. I'll go next time. So, I always say getting the cast a Little House on the Prairie together is like herding cats. We're very difficult to all get in one room.
Hi, my name is Barb. I'm asking Wendy the question. There's an episode where Charles is taking care of the family, and I don't know if it was you or your sister, but you're crying hysterically. And I wonder what made you cry hysterically. Did somebody pinch you or what?
I think you're asking about Olsen versus Olsen.
I'm not sure what it
Okay,
was.
so yes, you are, because that's this hysterical scene. So Olsen versus Olsen is when Carolyn goes to town and stays in the hotel, and Pa's left home to take care of the children. Well, they put pepper in the oatmeal, and that is what got me crying. And I would
Red
never.
pepper or black pepper?
I don't know.
Was it hot or was it bitter?
Do you think I remember that? I'm not sure. I didn't really know my peppers back then. But the funny thing is that I don't think that it had the effect that Michael wanted, because I never ate from him again. And they show the scene, the eggy scene, and I know a lot of you guys asked me about the eggy scene, because it's after that when he has the plate of eggs and says, "Don't you want to have some eggies? Look, your dolly wants eggies." And I'm like, mm-mm. And I never got over that pepper. So that is the story.
Hi, my name is Heather. I'm wondering, with the show being a Christian type show and understanding that not all the actors and actresses were Christians, was there ever any spiritual tension, and did people get saved by being on the show? What was that like?
Well, I guess I would say that the show was so full of family values, and there was scripture being quoted. I mean, the one when Michael Jr. dies, like, they are quoting Psalms 23. I mean, it is heartbreaking when they're doing that. And I know that Allison says she knew all the hymns and all the verses of every hymn. Like, there was a lot of, I mean, you all sat in church a lot, like a ton, you know. Yes, listening to Reverend Alden. Although I have been told by, I think, Allison, that Michael would get up sometimes and do tell this, because it's great.
Michael was Jewish, and sometimes in rehearsing the scenes for the church, before the Reverend Alden got up in the pulpit, Michael would be setting up the shop, and he'd get up into the pulpit, and he would start doing the Hebrew prayers and start doing the whole rabbinical piece, like, up there, and it got quite funny. So we had him, and then of course Catherine McGregor did her pilgrimages to India because she was a member of the Vedanta temple. So Catherine McGregor was Hindu. So we were Heinz 57. We had at least one of absolutely every faith going on the planet on the set. But yeah, I mean, it was a spiritual place. The things that went on in the episodes and the kind of stuff that we shared as a family, I mean, those values did have an impact on us, that's for sure.
I mean, I think no one was hired for their spirituality. You know, we're hired to do a particular kind of job, and I think everyone embraced thematically what was going on in the show, and I don't think anyone's individual religious beliefs or lack of religious beliefs had any bearing on how anybody played scenes or how they were viewed by other cast members. You know, we were a troupe of actors there to create a world and populate that world and tell the stories that Michael wanted to tell. And I think that's what everyone's commitment was there.
And I will say that we all have the utmost respect for everyone, and so yes, this cast of people are the best people. They all are just magnificent, and we all respect each other no matter what our beliefs are, and we all were affected by Little House for sure because of that. So yeah.
The cast of Little House on the Prairie would like to thank you from the bottom of their hearts for being here this weekend for the